Let's start with this because it was at the beginning of the week. It feels like the State of the Union feels like to me, and maybe this is just my mindset, but it feels like it happened like 5 or 6 years ago. And in fact, it was 3 nights ago. But here is, you were in. We'll just set this up because we got about 45 seconds of one of the reported pieces you did. You were down in Florida. Where in Florida?
I was in Northwest Florida, the Panhandle, the town of Fort Walton Beach, Florida, the city of Fort Walton Beach. It's where Eglin Air Force Base is. It's a reliably very, very red part of Florida. I did some reporting in Destin as well. So it's in the thick of Trump country is where they wanted me to be, to get a perspective on what those people think of their president and that speech.
And you know what I appreciated about this report, as opposed to like the endless pieces coming from the New York Times. There was no feigned surprise. Like, wow, this is like, I can't believe these people are still with them. You just made it clear this is a very, very conservative place, and then basically just let these people speak for themselves, which. All right. Well, let's play the clip and then we'll talk about this because, wow.
He's bringing people together. He's making us proud to be an American. He's making us want to hold our head high like we used to do before Obama was in office.
Nowhere was Donald Trump's message of making America great again bought into with greater fervor than this solidly far-right area in the far left of Florida's Panhandle.
I never bought into America wasn't great, but I'm seeing that, our First Amendment rights are being put into the forefront, and people are realizing that really the power lies in the people, and I think Trump empowers the populace.
As the country waits to hear the president's remarks Tuesday evening, the folks at Joe and Eddie's restaurant in Fort Walton Beach, Florida, are pretty happy with what they've heard so far, flaws and all.
Morally, he's a complete mess, and I find it so funny that the religious right has picked him up as, some kind of example to follow, which we all know he's not. He's a blowhard. He's a New York trash talker. I didn't elect a best friend.
Even Florida transplant John Williams agrees.
He's doing a great job in terms of the economy and getting America back on track. For the last 8 years, we've just been kind of going downhill.
Michael, I feel like this video you could also use if you were trying to lobby for more civil education in our system.
May I ask a question? Can I just ask? Hi, Michael. How close do you think that woman was when she said New York trash talker to being like, he's pretty Jewy? Yeah, he's a Jew. Let
me just start. All right, go ahead. I mean, give me your sort of like I don't know. I mean, your reactions to your own piece.
Well, my reactions are, at this point, listen, these are the people who elected them. It's good to elected them. It's good to check in with them. To feign surprise is foolish because it's not surprising anymore, but it's certainly interesting. And I think it's, the idea that there really are two Americas. There's one woman in that piece who was describing to me what it's like being out. And after Trump was elected, everyone was so much happier and everyone was relaxed and relieved that Obama was leaving and that Trump was going to be in. That's an entirely different reality than the ones that you and I and Michael and that we experience in the big cities in America where we live and where we saw Donald Trump, do very poorly. I think that's eye-opening, and I think it's important for everyone to understand that dynamic is at play everywhere.
All right. Well, let me just. Okay. So we understand that and their assessment. I mean, this one woman said that her First Amendment rights had been restored. Did you get a sense of like when she said that? Like, I have my biased predisposed notion as to what that means. But did she go through a situation where her First Amendment rights were curtailed in some fashion and then they've been restored?
She didn't really. Here's the thing. I wasn't there to challenge these people. I was there to kind of listen and share what I was hearing. When I asked her about the First Amendment rights that she was talking about, she basically addressed the fact that people are able to go after the press in a way where they feel free about it. But she didn't articulate it beyond that. She did say she was a libertarian. There was another woman who said that what she had hoped to hear from the president, though she didn't expect to hear it, was that Obama and Hillary Clinton and the FBI cronies would go to jail, and that they would be jailed. These are people who just, are totally removed from the idea of what is, possible in American politics right now, and maybe Trump is changing that a little bit too. But it's there was a disconnect. But I thought it was better to let people speak and let them be heard. I wasn't there to be an antagonist in this piece.
Fair enough. But I'm curious as to whether or not that woman who was interested, and that's later in the piece, who was interested in finally seeing Obama and Clinton and the FBI go to jail. If that was like a year and a half ago, let's say, or 2 years ago, if that was her agenda, like it is, the end of 2015, let's say, and she's sitting there debating on who she's going to vote for in the Republican primary. And she's saying, my number one agenda is that Obama, Clinton, and members of the FBI go to jail. There seems to have been some type of mutation, in what they were looking for.
Right. I mean, I think when you heard the chorus of Lock Her Up that was led by Michael Flynn, for the first time that I had heard it said by so many people at the National Convention in Cleveland in 2016, it dawned on me then as I first heard it. I was shocked by it. I mean, I'm not naive, but I was shocked to see the number of people that got into that from a U.S. general. And it made me think that you're right, Sam, that these people have been talking this way and sort of idealizing this idea for quite a while, or this notion for quite a while.
All right. So let's, okay. So what do we do with this information? I mean, once we know that there are there's vast swaths of the country who are saying, we're talking about their First Amendment rights have been restored, that they now maintain hope that finally we will arrest people in the FBI. What do we do with this information?
Well, there are two things there that are interesting. First, I want to ask you, when you asked me, did she talk about her First Amendment rights being restored? You said you had an idea of what that meant. What did that mean to you?
To me,
we talked about it. My crew and I talked about it afterwards as well.
Well, to me, what that is she feels less uncomfortable saying things that other people would think that she projects out, and probably would be politically incorrect. Like, finally, we can talk about all the blacks who are, and I'm not saying she's saying this, any one of these. I would probably say, I could say 5 things, and I would bet that at least one of them are coming out. The blacks are, finally having to work for their handouts, or the immigrants aren't getting all the freebees that they were getting
Sam,
before.
Careful. You might offend a lot of people listening here.
Or that, the transgender people aren't getting to dictate where we go to the bathroom. I don't know that there was any one of those. It's quite possible all 3, but that's what I would guess. That she just feels I'm not as embarrassed. And it's like, I don't think there was probably anybody in her own little universe or big universe that was criticizing her for saying that stuff anyways. It's just that now she just feels like, hey, man, I got a seal of approval from the president to be this way.
Right. And, she is a libertarian, that woman, the one we're talking about. She was the youngest person we spoke with, and she was on board with Trump and she went to 3 or 4 rallies herself, took road trips to them. She was not the person that you would typically believe was that way, but her libertarian streak, I think, supports exactly what you just said. And to answer your question, what do you do with it? I think it's really important. There was a moment of who are these people? How did this man win? And I think that, the media, and myself included, did a disservice to people. I saw these people throughout the campaign all around the country when I was covering the election. And I never believed myself, so I'm at fault, that he was going to win. And like so many, I'm in that boat. But I think it's important to hear that these people, that there are other realities than the ones you live in, and to understand where it's coming from. And if you don't like it, what you can do to stop it once you know about it in these anecdotes. And if not, if you support it, then to know that you're supported in different parts of this country, which I think you were probably reassured of if that's your situation anyway, by his election. But I just think that when you hear these personal stories, it's kind of, I don't mean to compare it this way. When you hear about the Holocaust, it's devastating. When you hear Anne Frank's story, it personalizes it, and it makes it more accessible. When you hear these people speak, it makes it more accessible, if still totally unbelievable.
Yeah, I
understand and empathize with you, and I'm even more terrified. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Right.
Basically, it's like, okay, so let me get what you're saying. If we allow you to ascend to any more power, we should all leave. Is that what you're...